Your history book left this out on purpose. Today, we're uncovering the truth about Iran's nuclear ambiguity strategy and the new Middle East power balance. There's a hidden cause almost nobody talks about, and a human cost that will shock you. Stay with me, because what I'm about to show you changes everything you were taught. We're looking at 18 months that changed the Middle East forever. February 27th, 2024. That's when everything shifted. Most analysts focused on the airstrikes, the casualties, the immediate damage, but they missed the bigger picture. Welcome back. If you're new here, we don't do surface-level news analysis. We dig into the strategies, the hidden moves, the long-term plays that mainstream media completely ignores. And there's one ally's betrayal that changes everything. Before we get there, though, we need to understand what Iran figured out, something that historically only empires understood. Quick background if you're not deep into Middle East geopolitics. 1979, Iran's revolution. The Shah falls, the Ayatollahs rise. And America? They've been trying to reverse that outcome ever since. 45 years of sanctions, assassinations, proxy wars, regime change attempts. The strategy was called maximum pressure. Choke Iran economically, isolate them diplomatically, wait for internal collapse. And honestly, it was working. By 2022, Iran's economy was gasping. Their currency crashed. Youth unemployment hit 40%. But then, something unexpected happened. Russia invaded Ukraine, and the entire global power structure cracked. Suddenly, Iran wasn't isolated anymore. Saudi Arabia normalized relations. China brokered deals. Russia needed Iranian drones. The blockade was breaking. And then October 7th, 2023 happened. That's when Iran made their move. Now here's where this gets really interesting. Israel thought they were fighting a conventional war, destroy Hezbollah's weapons, assassinate leaders, create deterrence through overwhelming force. The pager attacks, the Nasrallah assassination, massive airstrikes on Lebanon. On paper, Israel was winning, but Iran was playing a completely different game, and this is what almost nobody caught. While everyone watched Lebanon, Iran was quietly taking control of the Strait of Hormuz. 20% of the world's oil flows through there, every single day. By March 2025, Iran wasn't just threatening to close it, they were selectively disrupting it. Not a full blockade, that would be an act of war. No, much smarter. Random inspections, safety concerns, 12-hour delays, insurance rate spikes. Suddenly, shipping companies were paying triple premiums. Oil prices got unpredictable. Remember how I said maximum pressure was working against Iran? This reversed it. Now the pressure was on the global economy. Every time Iran delayed a tanker, Wall Street panicked. And here's the genius part. They weren't technically violating any international law. Maritime safety inspections, navigational concerns, environmental protocols. You can't sanction a country for being careful. So America had a choice. Start a full-scale war over delayed oil shipments or negotiate. They chose negotiation. June 17th, 2025. The Memorandum of Understanding, officially called a ceasefire framework. But look at the actual clauses. Clause 7, Iran gets sanctions release discussions. Clause 9, no new sanctions during the 60-day period. Wait, let that sink in. Iran just got the West to agree to pause economic warfare while Iran restocks weapons and builds alliances. And what's America getting? Time to refill strategic petroleum reserves. Time to resupply Israel's weapons. Both sides are preparing for round 2. And Lebanon? They just made a deal that might destroy them. Okay, real quick, if you're still with me and this is making sense, hit that subscribe button. I spend, honestly, way too many hours reading declassified documents and tracking shipping routes, so you don't have to. And smash that notification bell. YouTube's algorithm is, let's just say, selective about who sees this kind of content. Anyway, back to Lebanon's massive mistake. This Lebanon situation is honestly one of the most self-destructive agreements I've ever analyzed, and I need you to understand why. So there's the main MOU, US, Iran, regional powers, 60-day ceasefire. Clause 1 explicitly states complete ceasefire in Lebanon. That means Israeli forces were supposed to withdraw. Full sovereignty returns to Lebanon. But then Lebanon's government did something bizarre. They signed a separate side deal. And in this agreement, Israel gets to stay. Clause 2, quote, Israeli occupation forces will remain in Lebanese territory until verified disarmament of Hezbollah is complete. Notice the word verified. Who verifies? When is it complete? What's the standard? The agreement doesn't say, which means Israel can stay indefinitely. And it gets worse. Clause 7. Israel reserves the right to act in self-defense against any perceived threat. I'm not gonna lie, when I first read this, I had to read it 3 times. Perceived threat. You know what Israel has called self-defense? Bombing Syria, assassinating scientists in Iran, attacking aid convoys, striking hospitals. Perceived threats is a blank check. Remember that MOU ceasefire clause we talked about? Lebanon just gave it away. Now here's the question nobody's asking. Why would Lebanon do this? The government hates Hezbollah. I get it. Lebanon is divided. Christians, Sunnis, Shia. Deep sectarian wounds. The government sees Hezbollah as an Iranian proxy, undermining Lebanese sovereignty. And they're not completely wrong. But here's the thing. The Lebanese army has zero modern weapons. No fighter jets, no attack helicopters, no anti-tank missiles. You know who does have those? Hezbollah. Thousands of drones, precision rockets, anti-tank guided missiles. And this is the critical detail Western media won't tell you. Hezbollah is the only force that has ever successfully pushed Israel out of Lebanon. Year 2000, after 18 years of occupation. Year 2006, 33-day war. Israel withdrew again. The Lebanese army never fought Israel, never could. So Lebanon's government just agreed to disarm the only military force that actually defends Lebanese territory while allowing Israel to occupy indefinitely. Does this seem smart to you? It reminds me of the Versailles Treaty after World War I. Germany had to demilitarize the Rhineland, while France could intervene anytime for security. How'd that work out? And remember that Oman betrayal I mentioned? Here's where it gets wild. Oman attended the Gulf States meeting, sat with Saudi Arabia, UAE, Kuwait, publicly said, "We will not support any Strait of Hormuz taxation or fees," then left the room, held their own press conference, and announced, "We are establishing a voluntary contribution fund for maritime security services in the region." A voluntary contribution fund. Translation, you're paying or you're not crossing safely. Oman just became Iran's tax collector, and they're taking payment in yuan, crypto, or their own currency, bypassing dollar sanctions entirely. That power shift I mentioned at the start? This is what it looks like. February 27, 2024. Nobody thought Iran could control Hormuz. Now, they're charging rent. And now, the nuclear question. Western media keep screaming Iran is months away from a bomb. They've been saying that for 15 years. But here's what I realized after studying Iran's actual strategy. They're never going to test a nuclear weapon, because they don't need to. Let me explain with a comparison most analysts miss. You know Schrodinger's cat? The quantum physics thought experiment? Cat in a box. Could be alive, could be dead. You don't know until you open it. Iran's nuclear program is Schrodinger's bomb. They have 60% enriched uranium, confirmed. They have thousands of advanced centrifuges, verified. They have missile delivery systems, tested repeatedly. Do they have a working warhead design? Maybe, probably. We don't know. And that uncertainty is their entire strategy. Look what happened to North Korea when they tested nukes. Total isolation, brutal sanctions, economic collapse, famine in the 90s, still isolated today. Pakistan tested in 1998. Immediate sanctions, currency crashed, international aid frozen. Remember Iran's economic struggles I mentioned earlier? They're finally recovering. Oil sales increasing. New alliances forming. Why would they throw that away for a test that gives them nothing new? Think about it strategically. If you're Israel planning a strike, what's scarier? An Iran that tested a bomb, so you know exactly what they have? Or an Iran that might have a bomb, that could be assembled in weeks, and you have no idea where all the components are? The uncertainty is the deterrent. I call this weaponized ambiguity. It's actually not new. The Byzantine Empire had something called Greek fire, 7th century naval weapon, burned on water, couldn't be extinguished. Terrifying. And you know what made it most effective? They never revealed the formula. For 800 years, enemies were terrified of something they didn't fully understand. Sound familiar? Iran doesn't need to prove they have the bomb. They just need Israel and America to believe they might. Now here's where this gets really interesting. As long as Iran stays in the NPT, the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, they have to allow inspections, which means they can't secretly build a bomb without getting caught. But those inspections, they also prove Iran hasn't crossed the red line yet, which makes it really hard for America to justify a full-scale war. We need to attack Iran. Why? Because they might build a bomb. But inspectors say they haven't. After Iraq's fake WebMDs, that doesn't sell anymore. So right now, Iran has 4 barriers stopping them from actually building the bomb. 1, they need 90% enriched uranium. They only have 60. 2,
They need a proven trigger mechanism, unclear if they have it. 3. They haven't declared intent. It's not a national cause yet. 4. They're still in the NPT allowing inspections. But here's the twist. If America and Israel attack again in November, they remove all 4 barriers. Iran gains justification. We were attacked. We need deterrence. They withdraw from NPT. No more inspections. It becomes a national cause, like Pakistan in the 90s, and they rush to 90% enrichment. So Iran is waiting for their enemies to give them permission. That's geopolitical judo, using your opponent's aggression as your legitimacy.
Now, we need to talk about the elephant in the room, Donald Trump. His VP, J.D. Vance, already admitted the strategy. Quote, "We signed the MOU to refill oil reserves and weapon stockpiles. Then we'll see what happens." He just said it out loud. While analysts were debating diplomacy, Vance admitted it's just a reload timeout, like a video game. You're losing the firefight, duck behind cover, reload, then pop back out shooting. November 2025. That's when the 60 days end. That's also U.S. midterm elections. And Trump is losing. Current polling has Democrats taking back the House, possibly the Senate. If that happens, impeachment is back on the table. And here's why that matters for this war. Trump has made $2 billion since becoming president again. Not allegedly, documented. $1.1 billion from crypto, while he was regulating crypto. Millions from selling watches, Bibles, perfume from the White House. 22,000 stock trades in 18 months. Biden did 13 trades in 4 years. Now, imagine you're Trump. Economy shaky. Your approval is tanking. Impeachment is coming. You need a distraction, a win, something big. What do presidents do when domestic politics go bad? They go to war. So the question isn't, will America attack Iran in November? The question is, can Trump afford not to? Remember those 4 barriers stopping Iran from going nuclear? Trump needs those barriers to stay up, but he also needs a military win. This is the paradox. If he attacks, Iran gets justification to go nuclear. If he doesn't attack, he looks weak, loses the election, faces impeachment. What would you do? This is why Steve Witkoff matters, Trump's real estate partner, his actual negotiator for Middle East deals. I think, and this is speculation, but hear me out, I think there's a secret back-channel negotiation happening. Trump privately cuts a deal with Iran. You ease up on Hormuz, we ease up on sanctions. He makes money on the oil price stabilization through his stock trades, publicly supports Israel, privately stabilizes Iran relations. Sound crazy? Reagan did it with Iran-Contra. Nixon did it with China. It's called realpolitik. And Trump, he's nothing if not transactional. We need to go back to Lebanon, because what's happening there is a slow-motion tragedy. The Lebanese government thinks they made a smart deal. Disarm Hezbollah, get Israeli withdrawal, restore state sovereignty. But here's what they don't understand. Sovereignty isn't a piece of paper. It's enforced by power. 1982, Israel invaded Lebanon. The Lebanese army collapsed in days. Hezbollah formed in 1985, fought an 18-year guerrilla war. Year 2000, Israel withdrew. 2006, Israel invaded again. Hezbollah destroyed their Merkava tanks with anti-tank missiles. 33 days later, Israel withdrew again. The Lebanese army never fired a shot. And now they want to disarm the only group that actually fights, while allowing Israel to stay indefinitely? Remember that verified disarmament clause? There's no verification mechanism. Who verifies? The Lebanese army that can't even control its own border? The UN that's been in Lebanon since 1978 and accomplished nothing? Or Israel, who will never say disarmament is complete? This is a forever occupation, dressed as a peace deal. It's the Versailles Treaty all over again. France kept the Rhineland demilitarized for security. Worked great until Hitler remilitarized it and triggered World War II. Lebanon is already divided. Shia in the south support Hezbollah. Christians and Sunnis in the north hate them. They had a 15-year civil war over this, 150,000 dead, and this agreement restarts that conflict, because Hezbollah isn't going to disarm voluntarily. They have thousands of fighters, tens of thousands of missiles, deep tunnels, Iranian support. The Lebanese army can't force them, so Israel will try, which means urban warfare in Beirut, in Sidon, in Tyre. Thousands of civilian casualties, and a new refugee crisis. Remember how I said Lebanon made a self-destructive deal? This is why. There's a Punjabi poem I love. I burn my own bones to warm my hands, and I paid money to buy my own suffering. That's Lebanon right now. So where does this all go? There are only 2 possible paths forward. Path 1, acceptance. The West accepts the new power balance in the Middle East. Iran controls Hormuz. They have regional influence. They stay below the nuclear threshold. Ships pay fees or voluntary contributions for safe passage. Oil prices stabilize at a higher baseline. Iran integrates into the China-Russia economic sphere. Saudi Arabia and Gulf states adapt to the new reality. Is this likely? Not while America still sees itself as the sole superpower. Path 2. Escalation. November 2025. The 60-day window closes. America and Israel attack again. Larger strikes this time. Nuclear facilities, oil infrastructure, IRGC command centers, thousands of casualties. Iran responds by fully closing the Strait of Hormuz. Oil hits $200 a barrel. Gas prices in America hit $8, $9, $10 a gallon. Global recession. To reopen Hormuz, America needs boots on the ground. Those 5,000 Marines currently offshore, they deploy. Urban warfare in Iranian cities. Iranian asymmetric warfare. Hezbollah activates in Lebanon. Houthis intensify in Yemen. Militias attack in Iraq and Syria. And those FPV drones we talked about? They're everywhere. This becomes America's next forever war. Like Vietnam, like Iraq, like Afghanistan. Except this time, the enemy has missiles that can hit U.S. bases, and drones that cost $1,000, destroying equipment worth millions. Asymmetric warfare. The superpower spends trillions. The regional power spends billions, and bleeds them slowly. And at some point in this conflict, Iran builds the bomb. Remember those 4 barriers? All gone. They have justification. They have necessity. They have public support. They withdraw from the NPT, rush to 90% enrichment, assemble a warhead in weeks, and test it. At which point, what does America do? Nuclear first strike? Against a country that might already have hidden warheads? That's World War III. Or accept a nuclear Iran. Which brings us back to path 1. Empires don't fall in a single battle. They erode through economic exhaustion, strategic overreach, and endless wars they can't win. America is showing all 3 symptoms.
So what does all this mean? We're watching a power transition in real time, like Britain to America after World War II, like the Soviet collapse in '91. Except this time, we're not moving to a new single superpower, we're moving to a multipolar world. America dominates the Western Hemisphere, China dominates East Asia, Russia dominates parts of Eurasia, and Iran is carving out the Middle East. And here's what's fascinating. The technology is changing faster than the strategy. $100 million fighter jet versus a $1,000 drone. A $5 million tank destroyed by a drone that costs less than a used car. Traditional military metrics don't work anymore. It's Vietnam all over again. High-tech military versus low-tech asymmetric resistance. And time always favors the defender. November is coming. Trump needs a win. Netanyahu needs to stay out of prison. Khamenei needs to survive. 3 leaders with domestic political problems playing with regional war. What could possibly go wrong? Millions of people just trying to live their lives, caught in the middle. History teaches one clear lesson. Empires that overextend collapse. America has spent $8 trillion on Middle East wars since 2001. Imagine what that could have built at home. Iran understands this. They're not trying to beat America militarily. They're trying to make the cost unbearable. And we're about to find out if it worked. My importance rating for this situation? 10 out of 10. This will define the 21st century, the way the Cold War defined the 20th. What you need to remember. 1. Iran won the strategic game without nuclear weapons. 2. Weaponized ambiguity is more powerful than demonstration. 3. November will determine if we get negotiation or escalation. 4. Lebanon's deal is a tragedy waiting to happen. But here's my final thought. Wars are sold as necessary, strategic, inevitable. They're not. There's always a choice. I'll be tracking what happens in November. Subscribe so you don't miss it. Hit the bell. And start asking who benefits from this war. Because it's not the people fighting it. Stay informed, stay critical.